What's up, everyone? Here for a special New Year's Eve episode of Fight Capital, where I was sitting down with Charlie Quinn. Charlie Quinn is a man who stepped out from behind the mic to step into the cage, and we talked all about his first MMA fight, from breaking into the sports betting scene here in Las Vegas. And I love Charlie's story. It's one all about risk, resilience, and redefining success. So thankful for a great 2024. Both Charlie and I are really excited for what 2025 holds for everyone in our network and everyone that we talk to. And I really appreciate everyone's support this past year. If there's any guests that you want to see coming up in 2025, or any suggestions or feedback, please drop me a note. And always, I appreciate everyone's subscription, as well as commenting, liking, following this podcast. I really couldn't do without everyone's support. Now, Charlie Quinn, let's get it.
Welcome back to Fight Capital, where we enter the ring of combat sports business. I'm your host, Ryan Rapaport. Today, I'm here with a new resident to Las Vegas, Charlie Quinn. We're here to talk about his MMA career, everything he's got going on in sports, and then everything he's got going on in the betting world as well. Thanks for joining me today, Charlie, man. It's good to see you out.
Sir, man, I'm happy to be here.
Good to have you, man. So talk to me a little bit about, we were talking about before you got on camera, but I've got this fire lit under you, firing up. You took a little bit of a detox coming into the end of this year after your last fight. Tell me a little bit about where you're at today and what you're looking for this next year here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm known for being in the media, known for doing interviews and stuff like that. But I took a chance, took a risk, suited up, fought for the first time this year. Didn't go my way. Didn't take a single ounce of damage. Didn't get hit once. Didn't kick once. The guy showed up just to grapple. Kind of corny in my opinion, but that's the sport. It's a part of the sport. If I wanted him not to do that, I should have stopped it. So, I don't think people like myself, who really don't like, I've been through the barracks and been through, the tough parts of MMA and interviewed people that probably don't deserve the time of the day and interviewed people that probably don't, I shouldn't deserve their time of day. So I've been around the block. That being said, I underestimated how much the adrenaline dump really was. Everybody kept saying adrenaline dump. I thought it meant that I wasn't going to have adrenaline going in there. So I drank a C4 before the fight. So I'm sitting there and my corner's freaking out. What are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, this is how I train. This is what I'm used to. I drank it, walked out, pounded up all my boys. In my mind, before the whole fight, before the morning of, I was like, I'm not saying hi to anybody. I'm not talking to anybody. The way they set it up, they walked me out. I walked past everybody. Then I walk out. So all the emotion by the time I got to the back, I was fired up. I was game plan out the window. I was fired up. You watch the video. I mean, I sprinted right in. That being said, I have a fire lit under me. I definitely have to do it again. I don't want to do it again. I have to do it again. I'll get it back in blood. I don't think necessarily lost anything. Like I said, no damage. I didn't get embarrassed. I just, kind of got sat on. And then second round, I took him down and made a mistake. That's the game. That's what happens. One quick move, you lose. So.
Yeah, man, but you hit some rarefied air there. There aren't a lot of people who are on the journalism side who are willing to take that step to put in that work. Talk a little bit about the move, because New York native, that's home for you. But what brought you out to Vegas, and what made you want to make that move?
I've always worn New York on my sleeve. I can't leave the house without something that signifies I'm from New York. So New York and nowhere is always going to be home for me. Always going to be home for me. But as far as the media space and, the content creation, if I had to take that next leap, this is where I had to come. This is the capital of the world as far as fighting, so this is the fight capital of the world right here. But there's also room to do other stuff. So I've been doing gambling content, which has taken off really quickly. I've always had an ability to, take over the social media scene really quickly with viral videos and stuff like that. But it's a little bit different when it's your face every single day. That's going really well. I have over 300 customers who, come and pay for my picks every day. It's pretty crazy, when you really put it into perspective. I've only been doing it for a month. So that's been going well. But that being said, that's a side gig for me. That's always going to be a side gig for me. The MMA world is where I belong. I'm going to continue creating content in 2025. I have a lot of stuff lined up. I have a lot of people that I had to prove wrong now, including myself. And, I'm ready for the journey in 2025. I have a lot of things left to accomplish. I've accomplished a ton.
How are you going to be juggling that content creation side, which arguably is you're amazing at, man? Everything that you've done, whether it's the commentating side, the interviewing side, and now everything you're doing on the betting side. But when you're factoring in training too, there's so much that goes back and forth. even me, just everything I do on the consulting side with, Credit Combat, Sport Combat, and then trying to create the content. I'm like, where do I find the time? But how are you juggling that?
So right now the goal is to just get stronger. If you watch the fight, you understand why I feel that way. The plan is to get stronger. I didn't have a great weight cut. I didn't have a healthy, end of camp, so to say. I just really wasn't eating the past couple of weeks. It wasn't like I was shedding weight the correct way. It was kind of a time crunch. I just took it because I wanted to do it. Crazy thing. Like we said, a lot of journalists and media guys and stuff like that, they say they want to do it. They act like they'll do it. Push comes to shove, 99% of them aren't going to do it. I respect whoever does do it. I respect the people in front of me who have done it, like guys like Ben, guys like Oscar, guys who have, paved the way for guys like me to now come through the ranks and do something like that. So I just think it takes a certain set of balls to do it. And now I've proved that I could go and do it. And the jitters are out. There's no more like, what's going to happen? What's that? I've been in there, spent 2 rounds in there now. So I'm very comfortable. I've always been an athlete. I've always played baseball, basketball. It's something I have to do. So getting stronger right now is the number one priority. And then, the MMA is all going to play itself out. I'm going to be working out 5 days a week in the morning, which if I can't get my ass up at 6 in the morning to go lift and then work out, I'm in the wrong sport. No one's saying I'm going to be Conor McGregor or anything like that, but there's influences out there. There's money out there, and there's real opportunities. And a guy like me makes a million times a sense for any promotion. My phone was ringing off the hook after I lost. And that's after I lost. It's only over 100 tickets, which people may think is not that crazy, but in a regional scene, that's the top, that's the upper echelon. On that card specifically, I was the top dog of selling tickets. It's just how it was. That was at home though in New York. I'm not looking to fight in New York the next go around. I'm looking to fight out here hopefully, and we'll see what happens. But juggling is not going to be an issue to me. I just have to be with the right team, which I think I am out here.
Yeah, well, I mean, between like Southern California, Arizona, and just even like Tough Enough here and all those other, there's so many great, like, the main storylines kind of playing forward, not just for you, but for the industry.
So I'm looking forward to it because first card of the year is always a banger. Always, first and last card, they usually end correctly. Like UFC 310 was a good card. They end the year correctly. I know we have fight night this weekend, but that's, it's its own category essentially. I'm excited for it because it's my start of a new year. It's my start of, okay, now I'm back into the content game in the MMA world. We have 4 weeks off. You know how it is with the UFC. They take a month off, then we get back into that. So for me, it's my first chance to go now, read the whole card up and down, study it, get my content out. I got a month to prepare, get my new podcast launch and all that stuff. I'm excited for that aspect of it. The ticket aspect of it is ridiculous. No one going to that unless you got a bag in the pocket.
I thought about it.
It's crazy.
But yeah, me and my cousin, I started looking at him. I was like, nope, sorry, cuz.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You have to wait.
That being said, some of the best matchups that we might see for the entire year. A guy like Islam Makhachev, a lot of people are doubting him. Arman's got tremendous grappling, but in my opinion, I'm the biggest John Jones guy you'll know. In my opinion, Islam's the pound for pound one right now. He's the best in the world. I don't think anybody's close. It might be a boring win, but he's going to dominate. Like I don't see any other outcome. I think he's the best of the best right now. I think his striking is crisp. His striking is not the normal striking of a Nurmagomedov. It's legit. What he did to Volk and, what he was doing to Charles Oliveira on the feet is impressive. For a grappling heavy gym, it's impressive. I know they go to AKA, but it's impressive.
But I think people forget too that he got started in striking. He wasn't like the wrestler.
Yeah.
He was doing like Taekwondo and like short or like Kempo or something like that as well. Like back in the day, and those were his roots. And so like, he's like, oh, Dagestani wrestles, but then you got your Zabits of the world, and obviously like Bullet too, and all those guys.
Yeah.
They're striking out there as well. They're not just wrestlers; they just happen to be able to wrestle.
Yeah, I've grown to like Khabib over the last couple of years now. I'm also a big McGregor guy. I'm Irish, so McGregor is like the only reason why I got into MMA. I love Conor McGregor. Got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I'm not going to speak on that. That's out of my pay grade. But that being said, I hated Khabib before I started covering the sport. I hated the guy. I brought him to the rivalry. I hated the guy. When you really break the sport down, and if you appreciate the sport, almost impossible to hate the guy. He's everything you could ask for in a martial artist. Most boring fight I've ever watched, but he's a winner. So he's never lost. No one's ever beat him. He lost 1 round, which was to McGregor. And we hang a fucking banner for that, I guess, which is, I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. But guys like him, I love the story. I love the story with Umar. I love the story with Islam. And it's going to be an emotional night for those guys. I'm more curious to see how they juggle that. Khabib and his team have never been in a situation where they've had a co-main and a main event title fight back to back with their top dogs. So
Usman too. You got Usman with the Bellator
So
too. Yeah.
I'm very, very curious to see how they juggle. I know it'll make them push each other even harder. They'll be ready. That's not even a doubt. I think Umar wins. I love Merab. I love his gimmick. I love his skits and everything. I think he's hysterical. He's a hardworking, he's a hard worker. He's a great champion to have. I think Umar is diversive, man. He's got a lot of skills on the ground that Merab's got pressure. I'm not saying he's like a Colby type of like a wrestler, but Merab's more of a take you down, get you back up, take you down, get you back up. Not going to finish you on the ground unless it's ground and pound. I think Umar could maybe submit him. I sound crazy. I know I sound crazy because he trains with guys like Aljo and some of the best grapplers in the world, but Patchy Mix. But I don't know. I like Umar there.
Well, man, I mean, you got amazing insight into the sport too. I know that you've been doing this for a while. You've been, I mean, going back on your Instagram too, you got that post when you're like a little kid and, like kind of knowing this is what you're going to be.
I've always loved the microphone.
Yeah. Well, but I'm just curious, like just since you've been in the game, seeing how the UFC and boxing and this whole kind of ecosystem is shifting. I mean, what are some of those trends that you're seeing out there?
So I got into sports media when I stopped playing baseball. So I got into sports media. I got my first job at Sports Illustrated at 18. I was the youngest in the company, probably the youngest ever to work there. Those people hated me. They felt like I was gunning for their job and all that type of stuff. 18, I had nothing to lose. So I asked a shit ton of questions. They hated that. They hated me there. That being said, pandemic hit. They sold the company. I moved on from Sports Illustrated. Social media became more of a boom where it was opening jobs. I got into the boxing world and I was like, okay, this is a dead media. This is a dead media. It's not a household type of sport anymore. I saw how big it got with McGregor and Mayweather, but I was like, this is a dead media. So I hopped into that, started covering that with one of my good friends at the time. And we started a podcast and then we started covering MMA. And I loved MMA. I just fell in love with MMA. From there on, we split. We stopped doing the podcast. I just changed myself to Charlie Quinn MMA. And then it just went. And I was like, okay, these fighters are pretty much personable. Most of them. They love to talk. They love to broadcast themselves. Why don't I just make a living out of this? And here we are. It became a side hustle and then it became a full-time gig when I took a job in the media industry with a company. And I didn't like my experience there. So we broke off and now we're in Vegas. So this is the spot to be.
You're at the quarter, man.
Hey, everyone. Quick favor to ask. Did you know that nearly 80% of the people tuning in right now aren't subscribed yet? That subscribe button down below is what powers me every week to keep putting out these podcasts. Big shout out and thank you to everyone that's been supporting me for this. I couldn't do it without you. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe below. It means the world to me. And for everyone supporting me, thank you so much. Now back to the show.
I mean, talk to me a little bit about how does this betting gig figure into it? Because I know it's a little bit of a side hustle. You got a freaking amazing streak going too, which is nuts. But what does that look like for the future?
So I joined a company that my brother is close tied in with. He's got a job with them. So I joined the company and long story short, one of the brothers in the company has his own gambling company. And he's a big time gambler himself, his own personal page at like 110,000 followers. Huge deal. So he saw that I have a knack for social media and he was kind of intrigued by that. Talks flew back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They didn't, I guess, believe I would come out here. After the fight, first words, walking out of the cage, were get me to Las Vegas, get me the fuck out of here, word for word. And I came here, took a shot, and it's starting to work out. I won 14 straight of my best bets I post every day. So you see them before and after the game. It's no BS. I won 14 straight, and then I went on a hot streak. That's the game. So I've always bet for fun. I've always bet, not like it's a business, but I don't want to lose money. So I've always bet I'm good at content, and that's what sells right now. So I think it's a great side hustle to have, and it'll be a good, important piece for when I have my podcast launching in January. And, I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good gig to have right now as a hustle.
And your content around the betting too is super informative. I'm not a big bettor, but I've been learning from it as well. I'll say that, man, because I don't watch the betting content. I don't bet, but it's interesting. And you see where the industry's going. Just look at all the sports books, look at all the daily fantasy sites.
You get live odds in between rounds now. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so, do you feel like you have this chip on your shoulder, right? You feel like you're you didn't get accomplished what you wanted to that night, but what's pushing that?
So, that's the New York in me. I have a fuck you attitude. I've always had a fuck you attitude. People like it, people hate it. I have that reputation where either you love me or you hate me. There's no in between. So I'm not a bad guy. I talk a little shit sometimes. So I ran my mouth a little bit before this one and I didn't perform. So I have a chip on my shoulder. I know I'm better than how I performed. I know that it was a very simple of inexperience, and I rushed things. I went for the guy's back. I went to submit him, and I rolled over, and I lost. So I have a chip on my shoulder 100% just because I didn't have to take that fight. I took it in the essence of, I'm going to go get my experience. I'm going to go flatline this guy, take care of him like this, get my social media highlight, and then go to a spot where I belong and go fight an influencer. So I was just getting my feet wet. It happened to go incorrectly. The plan is still the plan. I'm going to fight an influencer this year. It's just a matter of whoever's going to give me the dotted line. I'm very interested in it, whether it's 145, 155. I have a chip on my shoulder, and that's something I have to do. So I'd like to get back in there in May, possibly. A couple of promotions floating around, but I'm excited. I'm really excited to get back in there because the adrenaline high, you can't put a price on that.
Well, then you can't have the reward without taking the risk and leaving your home, everything in New York, coming out here. It's a huge man. So many people are afraid to do that. I mean, like, I've done this 20 times. So when we were coming out here, we are like, yeah, this is where I need to be. Right. So, I mean, when I see that, but just talk a little bit about like the moment that, or even just taking this back, what's the one moment that you think has stood out to you that represents who you are to date? And like, where do you see that kind of driving you forward?
Before I go to that, I will say I was very surprised and humbled with the response I got. So I lost the fight. The promotion did the right thing by me. They know I'm a big, entity on social media and stuff like that. They didn't post a single highlight. They didn't do anything to disrespect me, so to say, or make me look like an idiot. So they didn't post a single thing. I could have just buried it. Could have just acted like it never happened, like deleted everything. Next day I posted a picture. I posted I lost this, that. I had like 200 comments or 100 comments, people just flooding in. Yo, you're a beast. You're a killer. You're a savage. You have the balls to do this. World title fighter, world championship caliber fighters commented on my shit, liking my stuff. Yo, like, you have to do this again. Yo, you need help. Come work out. Come do this. Come do that. The Extreme Couture guys, come work out. We'll help you with content. And help you with working out. So the motivation is there, 100%. And the fact that people backed it, I was surprised because I thought people would think I was disrespecting the sport. But it was backwards because I didn't take the approach where I'm going in for the money. I went in for the experience. Listen, I know that there's going to be somebody who's going to want to pay me money to go fight. I've had M's from plenty of guys looking to get me to go fight. So I know the opportunity is going to be there, but am I going to be there? So the best version of myself has to come through this time. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. So you can check the film. I wasn't in great shape. I wasn't strong. I didn't look like a fighter that day. I've covered countless press conferences and weigh-ins. I didn't look like one of those guys. We'll see in May if and when the opportunity I expect and hope to get comes to fruition, I'll be ready to roll. So all of that nonsense and all the naysayers and all the BS artists who act like they're going to do it, they would have quit after the first go around. They would never go and do this again after what just happened to me. They would never go and do this again. I never scratch on my face. I didn't get hurt. I didn't get touched once. If I didn't do it again, I'm soft. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but it's a pride thing too, right? And just for you willing to be like, hey, I took that lick. I'm going to step back in and do the work. And even just getting to that point, man, like you were saying, so few people will ever know what it feels like to step into a ring, to compete on a stage, to put, there is like an ego thing out there as well to do that. But
100%.
I mean, like, that's what my first thing was like, bro, kudos to you for even whether win or lose, just going and doing it.
People were reaching out. They were like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're out of your mind. Like, how could you possibly do that? Like, I didn't wrestle in high school. I didn't wrestle growing up. Like, I just went in there and did it just because I felt like it. More guys like that should be in the sport. If we're covering the sport, we all want to make quick bucks. Let's fight each other. Like, fuck it. Like, that's the way I look at it. The game has changed. It's opened the door for content creators. It's opened the door for journalists and stuff like that to get in there and go fight and go achieve a dream and go just get something off their bucket list. Going to get severely hurt. No one good enough in the influencer scene is good enough to really flatline you that way. Come on, let's call a spade a spade. So I have a chip on my shoulder, 100%. The moment I look back on that, essentially, like, I'm most proud of, or like, like we're here right now, is the first time I walked into Extreme Couture, and I had plans to interview everybody. I had plans to, do interviews. I walked in, saw Francis Ngannou. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is where I have to, this is my first one. Like, this is what I got to do. Long story short, I wound up getting a bunch of other guys and it worked out. But in that moment, I was like, yo, like, I'm here. I could do this. I'm on my own. I didn't have anybody with me. I didn't have any help. So I was like, if I just get some help and, get a little direction and get the ball rolling, we'll be good to go. So now I sit across like 50,000 followers across multiple sites in just the MMA world. And then the betting world, I think it's like 15,000
Wow, that's
across
quick,
multiple
dude.
sites.
Quick.
So,
Man.
I'm ready to roll. I hope that there's an influencer out there ready to take on the challenge in May that's on the same level as me. So we're not looking to get anybody essentially hurt, which I don't care about that. But I just think that for me to get back in there, it's got to be a smart, I already took my risk that I didn't need to take. So there's a lot of guys undeserving too, though. We'll see. There's guys out there that run their mouths that don't deserve. Exactly. I'm not saying the damn word.
It's funny because when I interview the content guys, his name always works its way in. Like
it ain't working in here
either. It's like
ain't working in here. Fuck Philadelphia. That's what I'll say. I hate that city alone. So that's just like an added no need.
Yeah.
No need.
I mean, I guess there's two versions of this next question. As a content creator and competing in combat sports, if you had to give advice to someone who wants to follow in your shoes, what would be that advice? Young guy who wants to create that content, also wants to be a real and legitimate person in the game as well. What are you telling to people?
Just go do it. Go have reps. Get reps in. Go do it as many times as you can before you're comfortable doing it publicly. The advice I would give to a young, guy trying to fight, make sure you have the right gym. Make sure you have the guys behind you. Make sure you have, the correct conversations going on, because you'll get screwed. They only care about themselves. Might be from personal experience, might not be. I'm not going to out anybody. They know who I'm talking about. I don't have to out anybody, but I had an experience where I was in, a gym for a very long time, in and out. I did some content for them as well. And they knew I was going to fight. And 2 weeks before my fight, the guy who was the head honcho there, who was never in the building, came in the building one day and was like, nobody's cornering you. So it was pretty much a fuck you. I had 15 days and I didn't pull out. So you name one person in the world who's in my shoes, who doesn't have to fight, has no business fighting, who wouldn't have pulled out, I'll be shocked. Because nobody ever would have pulled out. Everybody and their mother said, you better pull out. You better get out. Like,
I mean, from the outside too, I was looking at it being like, how did I didn't catch that part of the story ever.
No one caught that, but people started catching on where it was like,
Jerry's training in a corner. Afterwards, you're like, I didn't even have a corner. How the fuck did that happen? It didn't even make sense. But
so I was training out of a basement, and then out of Longos, I was sparring with the Frivolas. That was it for the last 2 weeks. So I was driving 2 hours to Long Island every day because I got sandbagged. So what are you going to do? Advice for content creators and guys who want to fight, just go do it. Just very simply go and do it. It's not the end of the world if you lose. Nothing necessarily happened to me. I've been in a dark place, absolutely. But at the end of the day, all it does is motivate you. I know damn well I'll have another chance at it. People would love to have me. I do a lot of clicks, do a lot of views. But I know where I want to be next. I think you know where I want to be next as well. Hopefully that all works itself out. And 2025 is a huge year. As a fighter, as a creator, as a gambler, as anything you could possibly ask for, it's my year. This is my leap year. This is the year that I start separating. Like, I had a great year 2 years ago. I separated myself from a lot of the creators, and a lot of the guys that we talked to looked up to me in a sense. Then I kind of took a little time off, fucked around a little bit, had some success, had some not success, and then I did something I said I would never do. I latched onto a company. I wasn't independent anymore, and it roadblocked. So now I'm out. I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I have a lot of connections. I'm looking forward to using them. And, most importantly, I'm very excited to have the chance to work out in the most dominant world. I would say one of the most impressive combat sports gyms in the world.
Yeah, I mean, you never really know how bright the light is until you've seen the darkness, right? And you've worked your way through that, man. I'm really excited to see what's next for you, bro. And before we get going, just tell everyone, where can they find you if they want to get in contact with you, if they want to engage with you on the betting side? Where are all the handles?
So you can find me at Charlie Quinn MMA on all platforms. You could also find me with Charlie Quinn on all platforms. Put my picks out every morning on Winnable. You'll be able to find my podcast as well. Just check in on Charlie Quinn MMA. Everything will be posted there. Excited for a huge 2025. This guy's the GOAT.
Hey, man, thanks for doing this.
My man.
Thank you, man.